Hi, my name is Ben Watson. I'm an educator here at the Arkansas Regional Innovation Hub. And today in our virtual library video series, we will be looking at drawing character expressions. For this project, you will need a pen or pencil, some paper, or if you prefer, a digital drawing tablet. All right, so first we're gonna break down the face into emotive regions. And really that's just identifying different areas of the face that are gonna contribute to the overall expression of our character. So we'll just draw out a basic head shape here, got the jawline, sides of the face. So first you might think of the eyebrows as being very expressive. So we'll put in the eyebrows here. We're gonna leave them at just sort of a neutral position, but they can be turned up, they can be turned forward, raised, lowered. They can be very expressive parts of the face. Then we'll have the eyes. Now in the eyebrows, as you can imagine, they inform how the eyes are acting and vice versa. So those two will interact pretty closely together, but they'll be distinct as well. The nose to a lesser extent, but the mouth is also going to be a really big factor in the overall expression. So right now we're having it at a very neutral position, but the mouth can be open, it can change shape dramatically and really giving us an overall feel of the face. So now that we have an understanding of the structure of the face, we're going to look at really the structure of our range of emotions or a range of expression. So the first one is going to be happy, sad, angry, surprised, and then of course just the neutral or resting face. So happy is like a smiley face, right? But look, the corners of the mouth are going to be up like this. Sometimes the mouth is open, the teeth are showing if it's a stronger emotion of happiness. So something like that. And often the eyebrows are turned upwards like that to show kind of the lightness of the mood. And now sadness is going to be in some ways the opposite of happiness. So the corners of the mouth are going to be turned downward. And depending on the extent of the emotion, the mouth can be opened or closed. The eyebrows are still going to be turned up, so there is a little bit of overlap there between the two. The eyes can be open or closed, but that's going to be your basic sadness emotion. And then anger, of course, a lot of the face kind of scrunches inward on itself. So we're going to have that furrowed eyebrows pointing inward there, and the eyes are really going to interact with the eyebrows just like that, kind of pointing downwards towards a single point in the face. And the mouth is kind of reflecting that inverted. So we have the downward turn of the mouth. Sometimes the mouth can be open if it's in more of a rage emotion. Surprise is just a little bit of a variation of happy. So it's kind of a subtle one, but combined with other emotions can give us some really good variety. So the mouth is open a lot of times. The eyebrows are raised, much like they are in sadness and in happiness, but even more so. And the eyes can be slightly open or really, really open, once again, depending on the degree. And of course, we have our neutral face here, where just pretty content. Eyes are sort of average. The eyebrows are just even keel across and just a normal resting face. So now that we've looked at the basic expressions, we're going to look at how we can increase or decrease the extent of that emotion, sort of getting the subtle variations that we see in human expression. So first I'm going to do happy or happiness. And so on the more subtle end of the scale, it's not going to be a very visually striking display of emotion. You're just going to have a smile with maybe kind of an upturn in the eyebrows here, and the eyebrows where the eyes are just kind of a very neutral position for those. And then we can take that and we can dial it up just a little bit more. So if we have a stronger feeling of happiness, that's going to show maybe in a broader smile, probably even showing some teeth there in more of a grin, something like that. And the eyebrows can maybe turn up a little bit more, maybe raise a little bit more to show the intensity of that emotion right there. And then if we take it even further and dial up that emotion to where if you have a much stronger smile or sense of joy, then the mouth might be open even wider and kind of in a more of a laughing state where we just kind of show the top part of the teeth there and the open mouth and have the eyebrows raised and turned up. And then maybe the eyes kind of squinch a little bit or close shut, just kind of showing, once again, that strength of that emotion right there. And so here we have, just by adjusting the intensity, we get some variation in the expression and some nuance there as we build these different emotions. So now we're going to go on to sadness. So the basic form is just going to be kind of a grumpy or mournful, just downward tilt of the edges of the mouth. There's probably going to be some in the eyes and the eyebrows there, just showing a basic level of sadness. If we dial that up even more by really, a lot of the times the eyebrows with sadness will be really upturned, and even maybe some furrowing of the brow there. Maybe that the mouth might open a little bit more to show that intensity there. There's almost a sense of concern or worry. It's a stronger reaction to whatever is happening there. And then if we dial that up even further, and much like we had with our happiness emotion, sometimes the eyes can even close shut again. So say if somebody is crying or something like that, and the eyebrows are really kind of getting into that, a real furrow there, and then the mouth opens up even more so, just showing the intensity of that emotion there. All right, so now we're going to look at anger and surprised emotions as well. All right, and for looking at the degrees of emotion, or sort of a spectrum of emotion from low intensity to high intensity with anger, we're going to look at sort of the basic shape of that expression, where we just, much like sadness, we're going to have a downturned mouth, kind of grumpy, maybe a slight downward turn of the eyebrows, but the eyes are in a pretty neutral position. There's really no furrowing of the brow visibly noticeable in that. But if we dial it up even more for a more intense feeling of emotion, we're going to see some stronger changes in the face. So we're going to see a real tight furrowing of the eyebrows there. And the eyes, though, might remain somewhat the same. There's really not a whole lot of, maybe just a slight narrowing there. And then the mouth might even open just a little bit, just so there's like a little bit of a grimace there, just showing that increased emotion right there. And we'll take it one step even further to more of a sense of rage. So this is where we're kind of getting into extended categories of emotion. So we have anger, which is a really basic one, but that can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. So this is more an enraged state where it's high intensity. Usually even the whole body itself is involved. And of course the face itself, even some kind of wrinkling in the nose there as it responds to the forehead and the eyebrows and the eyes as well. There's kind of a focused intensity there. So, and then the mouth reflects that as well. We're gonna have it wide open, maybe even stretching out the jaw a little bit and opening up the mouth more to show that intensity right there of shouting or something like that. And so now we can look at surprised. So just a basic surprised face, just a sort of normal, neutral, pleasantly surprised expression. Something like that, where there's not too much intensity, just a really, really pleasant, neutral emotion there. The rounding of the mouth, we can take that up a notch. And maybe the mouth is open even more, kind of a more vertical there, and the eyebrows are coming up, the eyes are maybe a little bit more enlarged with that increased intensity. And then we can even push that up even more. And don't be afraid to experiment with this in a sort of exaggerated way, really pushing that expression to its kind of abstracted intensity, where it may not be the most realistic face, but it is kind of showing just the extent and the expressive qualities of that emotion and of that character. So now that we have these degrees of emotion, this spectrum of emotion, we can also combine these different basic emotions to create further nuance in these expressions. All right, so now that we've looked at our basic emotions and we've also explored those even further to see how the degree in which that emotion is expressed can give us a broader range of expression when we're drawing our characters, we can take those expressions and combine them together to get basically new expressions, or really a nuanced expression or emotion. So for instance, we can combine surprised and angry to give a sense of shock or an expression of shock, and I'll show how that works. So we'll draw in our basic face shape here. And so we know that for anger, there's going to be sort of a downward grimace to the shape of the mouth. And we're going to combine that with our surprised expression, which is going to be more of an open mouth. And so we'll kind of put those two together in a sense. So we got kind of that downward turn there, but then there's some kind of openness to the mouth where there's anger, there's kind of a disappointment or a rage there, but then also just a sense of surprise, that shock there. So now that we have the mouth drawn out showing this sense of shock, so a combination of surprised and angry, we're gonna now put in the eyes. Now for those, it's gonna be a little bit of a combination of the two. So the eyebrows typically are raised and upturned for the surprised expression, but we're gonna borrow them more from the anger. So they're gonna be kind of furrowed and downturned, but the eyes themselves are going to be open. We're gonna borrow more from the surprised expression. Whereas in anger, of course, they're gonna be kind of narrowed or closed or something like that. So we're really changing up how this expression is manifesting just by combining elements of those two emotions. So something kind of like that. And so it's different from anger, it's different from surprised, it's a more nuanced expression giving us that sense of shock. So we can do something similar with a combination of sadness and anger. Now, and that's going to give us an emotion along the lines of disgust. So we'll draw in our basic head shape here. So for anger, we're going to borrow those angry eyebrows. Once again, kind of have them downturned, because in disgust, there is a sense of anger or revulsion or disappointment, something like that. So we're going to have them downturned like that. And instead of more of an angry grimace, or something, or an enraged mouth, we're just going to do kind of a very like stern disappointment, or kind of like, smelled something bad. So something kind of like that. And in a sense, it's sort of a sadness, you know, it's a downward frown of being sad. And then the eyes are gonna kind of be narrowed a little bit like that. You know, once again, like it smelled something bad that it just really doesn't like. And we can kind of even put in wrinkles on the nose as it responds to that. So there we kind of have a sense of disgust right there. And let's combine maybe two things that seem really, really different. We'll have happiness and anger to produce a real devious face, kind of a maniacal expression where they're taking joy in maybe doing something a little bit devious, something like that. So we'll draw in our basic shape. So typically with our angry face, we'll have the mouth downturned and opened or something like that. But in this case, we have that happiness in there. So we're gonna draw in a happy face like that. And we might even give it a smile like that. Very, very elated. But we're going to bring in those angry eyebrows again, something like that. Now they're not enraged, they're just a little bit, or to borrow angry, or something borrowed from that. And so the eyes are kind of neutral, but they're focused in on that devious goal. So something like that. So it really is borrowing elements from those two expressions, but when we combine them together, they become greater than the sum of their parts and give us a more nuanced expression for our characters. All right, so we've looked at the basic structure of the face, we've looked at some basic emotions, we've looked at ways of increasing or decreasing the intensity of those emotions, and we've also looked at how we can blend some of those basic emotions together to create some really, really nuanced emotions and expressions for our characters. And so now that you have these fundamentals, these basic elements to work with, you can take this and create characters that are expressive, that show lots of personality, and are true to life and can really enrich your stories. Thanks for watching this video. If it was helpful to you, please leave a like, and don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms.